Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Jeremy Winter, Director for Azure Management and Migration Engineering here at Microsoft. And today we want to share to you how you can build resiliency and growth for your business through both cloud migration and modernization. Now, we know that this journey can be complex to navigate, and we've heard from many of you wanting to learn best practices and needing assistance with readiness along your migration journey. We're here to help you get it right. Now, a year ago, businesses were responding to the immediate needs created by the global crisis. The good news is that we see many working through the recovery with new approaches, utilizing the cloud, and in some cases, looking to even reimagine their business for the long term. For customers I'm engaged with, I've seen a similar pattern of questions. How do we address capacity constraints? Remote work needs? How do we insulate ourselves from the fragility of running our own data centers? And how do we run our business with reduced in-person staff? And what guidance, tooling, assistance can we leverage to get from our existing environments to the cloud? So how can Azure help? The first is really shifting from a legacy capital expenditure model to more of a flexible operational expenditure model. With an OpEx model, organizations reduce spending by only paying for resources and services that you consume, and also enable you to quickly provision IT capacity across more than 60 data center regions. We do all the heavy lifting in the back for you, and it requires no upfront capital. The second is we help you protect your environment. You can protect workloads on Azure with security and threat detection services backed by well over 3,500 security professionals here at Microsoft. We're the only cloud platform provider with this level of native security capabilities. And in addition to protecting you on the security front, you also gain built-in resilience to avoid those costly business interruptions. Investments like in-region pairs, availability zones, site recovery make this happen. And finally, we know scaling your most demanding workloads is essential for these times. And running workloads on Azure helps with a much leaner staff and to focus on what matters, while we take care of the operational burden with fully managed application and database services in Azure. Okay, let's break this down into what a journey typically looks like. Keep in mind that the approach will be specific to your own organizational needs. Now, we recommend the Azure Cloud Adoption Framework for a simple methodology to help you drive success into your efforts. We have a number of best practices, programs, and toolings to really help guide you. Now, let's start just taking a look in the planning phase. In the planning phase, it's critical to have stakeholders aligned on the vision and alignment of the roadmap up front. This includes your IT, your app owners, your business leaders, and partners that will be involved throughout. Having finance and procurement there early while building the business case is key. Also, having a PMO that's empowered to make things happen and surface risks along the way is very critical in my experience. Migration is all about keeping those teams moving. Start planning by taking inventory and analyzing your workloads. This will help uncover workload costs and configurations to inform your all-up plan. Assessments can help guide with the workloads to migrate versus modernize versus rebuild to those cloud-native architectures. I've seen customers make these choices based on business priority and technical risks. And tools like Azure Migrate can help with assessments, and I'll cover that here more in a bit. As you shift into execution, ensure your teams are skilled up on Azure fundamentals and workload level considerations. For example, if you're migrating to virtual machines, your IT team needs to be well versed in the Azure IaaS capabilities and how to operate them once they get here. Same for those databases and apps, and our partner ecosystem can help you here as well. It also helps to land your workloads on an Azure environment that's architected to run effectively. We've built pre-built landing zones to help. Now, landing zones are critical as you scale your migration efforts. It should include foundation elements like subscriptions, networking, identity, security, and governance policies, really just built out to your own organizational standards. And the Azure Well-Architected Framework is a set of guiding tenets that will help you build those landing zones. Your landing zones can be simple to support the smaller workloads at first, then scaled up to address more complex workloads over time. And as you move forward, please use that wave-based approach to execute your manageable sets of workloads. For projects my teams are involved in, we typically run those projects with 6 to 8 applications in a wave. And this approach enables teams to work in a focused manner, thereby increasing the quality of the migration and to make improvements along the way as you go. And finally, in production, governance and management are a key factor. We offer a set of built-in solutions such as Azure Policy, Azure Security Center, and everything in between from automation, monitoring, and backup. All can easily be enabled. And again, we have you covered as you and your teams migrate and modernize your business. So let's jump back to the beginning to cover the highlights and the announcements that we want to cover through the session, but really also getting back to that business case. Now, as I mentioned, the business case is a critical success factor for any migration project and aligning the key stakeholders, including getting the buy-in from the CFO. This is even more important in today's environment as budgets are getting tighter and priorities are shifting with companies looking to the cloud for cost optimization beyond those technical benefits. Wasting resources is something every CFO wants to avoid, and it's typical for on-premise data centers to utilize only a fraction of their allotted capacity. With a CapEx model, it's common for organizations to use roughly 60% of their data center capacity for daily operations and only 30% of their server capacity. While having excess capacity is critical, it still means you're paying for unused infrastructure. With an OpEx model, the cloud allows you to create the resources as needed and only pay for what you use. This helps free up excess capacity across the environment and your teams. So to help with this, we recently launched the Azure Cloud Economics Guidance, where you'll find technical and financial tips from Azure experts on going about your case. Cloud economics can help you get the most out of the value of your cloud investments. These tips can help you understand how moving to the cloud will shape your company's overall financial posture, as well as new processes to ensure that the budget and ROI controls are met. Guidance was pulled from many of our customer engagements, and here are some of those customers who have benefited from this approach. It's great to see that all three customers have optimized costs significantly while gaining flexibility and scale for their teams and systems. So let's transition a bit to the key phase of the migration journey, discovery and assessment. Now, you need a strong understanding of your workloads to plan your migration and modernization. Prioritizing migration assessments helps you get ahead of the potential challenges by migrating risks up front with knowledge. Azure Migrate, the hub for all of our migration tooling, includes an at-scale discovery and assessment for your infrastructure, be it on-prem or other clouds. And customers love that agentless simplicity that we have. By discovering all your workloads, including application inventory and dependencies, and assessing them for compatibility, sizing, and cost, you're able to build high-confidence migration plans with Azure Migrate. Now today, we're announcing a set of new features that will allow you to discover your SQL databases and assess them for migrations to Azure SQL databases and Azure SQL managed instances. And additionally, you can now also perform these assessments for migrations to Azure VMware Solution. And right around the corner, we'll also be adding assessments for migration of apps to the Azure App Service. Now, making Azure Migrate that one stop for infrastructure, data, app, migration scenarios. So let's take a look. I'd like to introduce Shikhar from the Azure Migration team. He's going to give us a demo of the new unified discovery and assessment features for SQL in Azure. Shikhar, take it away.
Thanks, Jeremy. As Jeremy mentioned, migration assessments are crucial as they help you build a high-confidence migration plan. Azure Migrate lets you discover your infra at scale, perform application dependency mapping, and create assessments for migration to Azure Infrastructure as a Service, Azure VMware Solution, etc. To make it easier for our customers to also assess their data estate, we are now adding new features for unified at-scale discovery and assessment for SQL Server. Let me show you how. I've already created a project and deployed the Azure Migrate appliance for VMware. I would like to point out that SQL Server discovery feature is in preview for VMware only at the moment. To discover SQL Server instances and databases, I'll provide either the domain credentials or SQL Server credentials with sysadmin access. These credentials remain on your appliance and are never sent to Azure. Once I specify the credentials, I can initiate the discovery process. On the portal, I can see that over 9,324 servers were discovered, and 294 of them were running one or more SQL Server instances. I can use multiple appliances to discover an even larger estate. Let's look at an example. I can see that my VM HR SQL VM01 has 3 instances. Going deeper, I can see their details such as their name, version edition, and count of user databases, etc. I can further go deeper into an instance and review the databases running on it. I am now ready to create my first assessment. While creating an assessment, I can specify properties such as target location, performance history duration, service tier, etc. I can also specify the target deployment type to indicate which Azure SQL offering I would like to leverage. I can stick with recommended to indicate that I'll let Azure Migrate determine the ideal target. If I'm already inclined towards an Azure SQL offering, I can select the same. Additionally, I can indicate whether I would like to bring my own license with Azure Hybrid benefit. Once I've specified the names for the assessment and the group, I will specify the servers that should be included in the assessment. All this looks good, and I can now quickly create my assessment. It takes only a few minutes to create the assessment, and now I'm ready to review it. I can see that we assessed 57 servers, 207 instances, 2,925 databases. And I have recommendations related to the ideal SQL target for my instances and the estimated cost of running them in Azure. Now I will look at the details of the assessment for HR SQL VM01. We can see that MS SQL Server instance is ready to be migrated to Azure SQL DB. And the recommended tool for the job is Database Migration Service. Going deeper, I can view the performance characteristics and recommended SKU for each database is running on it. I can also understand that this instance is not ready for migration to a managed instance. As you can see, that one of the databases has multiple log files, which is not supported by Azure SQL MI. In the case when an instance is ready for both Azure SQL MI and Azure SQL DB, as is the case with DMS 2016 SQL instance, the recommended details panel explains how the ideal target was determined. In this case, the cost of running on Azure SQL MI was projected to be lower, and hence Azure Migrate provided that as the recommended target. So that was a super quick demo of everything we have added in Azure Migrate to help you discover and assess your SQL Server instances and databases at scale. We have included configuration and performance discovery, right sizing, Azure SQL target and SKU recommendations, and cost details to make it easier for you to start prioritizing your infra and data assessments with Azure Migrate. With this, back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Shikhar. The Azure Migrate team is doing some really exciting work, including many deep engagements with customers to continually evolve the tooling. One great example is with the pharmaceutical company we worked with. This company was able to quickly discover their VMware virtualized environment and physical servers with Azure Migrate. By leveraging features like application inventory and dependency mapping, we were able to go work with them to be able to build a prioritized list of applications in under 2 weeks that they could migrate. They then used the Discovery Plus assessment data and incorporated it into their CMDB to build Power BI dashboards to track the progress of their strategic migration initiatives. It was really great to see the speed and flexibility for the customer as they made decisions for how to move forward. Okay, so carrying on further with our migration and modernization journey, let's discuss kind of the triggers that are influencing our migration approach. It might be that your data center contracts are expiring, you need to support remote teams, or you're facing that urgent capacity needs. Windows Server and SQL Server, as well as Linux and SAP workloads, continue to be where I see the most energy as customers continue to move their data center infrastructure to Azure. They're looking to use the highly secure and resilient foundation that Azure provides, combined with the breadth of compute options available in Azure IaaS. This includes mission-critical environments like SAP. Customers' demand for VDI migration continues to be high as you strive to keep your employees productive for remote work arrangements. Lots of interest among enterprises and educational institutions here. On Azure, we deliver a great Windows 10 experience with Windows Virtual Desktop, as well as fully supported VMware and Citrix solutions. For customers with large investments in VMware tools and skill sets, we have you covered. Azure VMware Solution provides you with the smoothest path to adopting the cloud. Now, the Azure Migrate toolset includes options for migration to VMware and Hyper-V VMs to Azure, as well as migrations of servers from any other cloud or physical machine. VMware customers can leverage their existing investment in VMware by migrating to Azure VMware Solution with VMware Hybrid Cloud Extension, or HCX. Customers are also using our powerful automation capabilities built on Azure's REST APIs and PowerShell to execute these rapid migrations using a migration factory approach to achieve the velocity that they need. And so today we're announcing additional improvements to our tools, including more automation options to help simplify your steps, 2x scale improvements, and additional customization options in our server migration tooling, like using tagging. While we're also continuing to add additional partner choices inside Azure Migrate, with Zerto now available as an integrated tooling option for server migration. And to complement the tooling and further accelerate your migration journey, the Azure Migration Program, or AMP, is available to you and helps simplify the path to the cloud. AMP provides the right mix of expert help at every stage of the journey. It brings together the proven cloud adoption framework methodology, free tools such as Azure Migrate, free technical skilling, direct assistance from Fast Track, and qualified partners. You can sign up at azure.com/AMP either for self-guided digital support or guided deployments with our engineering experts based on the size of your project. AMP is helping thousands of customers with resources and guidance, and again includes a variety of migration projects ranging from Windows Server, SQL Server, Linux, MySQL, virtual desktops, and web apps. One great example of how AMP enabled customer success is the American Cancer Society, a nonprofit focused on patient support, prevention, and life-saving research. The need to both enable remote work and support patients from afar accelerated the nonprofit's transition to a cloud-based infrastructure. American Cancer Society reached out to the Azure Migration Program and Microsoft partner Redapt for assistance. The migration didn't simply map all their existing services and tools onto the cloud. They rationalized the number of services they used by nearly 2/3, then used Azure Migrate to move those needed VMs. American Cancer Society transitioned 100 on-site apps to Azure, which allowed staff access to the tools they needed from anywhere. They also jettisoned the need for hardware maintenance and upgrades and security of nearly 1,000 virtual machines in their on-site data center. Now in the cloud, they have more time to design ways to analyze their mass amounts of data and focus on their mission, eliminating cancer. So moving to our next approach, let's go look at modernization. Now, modernization can help your business transform your traditional applications away from virtual machines and operate even more efficiently with the new paradigm. We are making this easy to choose your ideal path via either an Azure PaaS or containerization approach. Workloads that require minimal change or that IT continues to run that no longer have a dev team attached to them are great candidates. We're investing to provide a fast and smooth path here with Azure Migrate as well. The application inventory and dependency mapping capabilities in Azure Migrate can help you identify the ideal candidates for a modernization approach. In addition to tooling, Azure Migrate also features comprehensive guidance for various modernization scenarios, including migration of Java apps to the Azure platform offerings such as Azure Kubernetes Service, Azure Spring Cloud, and Azure App Service. Today, we're announcing new tooling capabilities to give you more choice when it comes to app modernization. First, we're previewing the app containerization capability in Azure Migrate, which is a no-code point and containerize tool to help you migrate ASP.NET and Java web apps on Apache Tomcat to containers on Azure Kubernetes Service. AKS is a great choice to run your web apps when you need additional control over your app infrastructure, and containers can help you reduce your infrastructure footprint. Next, we also added support for inline migration to Azure SQL in Azure Data Studio, and published new guidance for migration of Oracle databases to Azure, databases for PostgreSQL, MySQL migrations to Azure Database for MySQL. Azure Migration Program as well, which I mentioned earlier, is announcing expanded support for app modernization scenarios beyond .NET apps to cover all major application frameworks, such as Java and LAMP-based applications. Starting this April, AMP will support modernizing these apps onto Azure Kubernetes Service and PostgreSQL scenarios, giving you the choice where to leverage AMP as you migrate and modernize your estate. Chipotle, a longtime leader and innovator in the food industry, built their new website in Azure to replace and unify their self-hosted legacy app, fully integrated with this existing content management system and back-end services that they had. Using services such as App Service for hosting the website and Azure Cosmos DB as their main database, Chipotle had the advantage of pre-built functionality for a successful customer experience, while Visual Studio provided .NET developers unparalleled productivity. The new architecture in Azure enables quick adjustments, reducing time to market. The website is future-proofed in terms of scalability, availability, or even event geographic distribution. Now the team has less to worry about on day-to-day operations and can focus on innovation. Chipotle also significantly reduced the cost and labor that would be required for a complete rewrite of the application. Let's now touch briefly on cloud native. What we mean by cloud native is building an app from the ground up using cloud architecture such as microservices and serverless compute. Increasingly, we're seeing customers who value the idea of innovating at a faster pace, and they're using cloud-native architectures with loosely coupled microservices, managed databases, AI, and DevOps support. Combining different fully managed services in Azure, you can create powerful cloud-native applications that deliver great experiences for your customers, as you can see in the retail e-commerce example. Now, Fast Track for Azure is a technical enablement program that helps with rapid and effective design and deployments of your cloud solutions. I'm pleased to announce that Fast Track has recently expanded the support for accelerating production and deployments for cloud-native applications. You can receive assistance for Kubernetes, OpenShift, serverless, and event-driven workload deployments on Azure. You can ask your account team or your deployment partner to nominate you for direct access to Fast Track. Now, you've modernized your workloads, you've migrated them to the cloud. Next up is production. We make it easy for you to operationalize those workloads on Azure with built-in solutions for management and governance. Turn on Azure Backup, Azure Site Recovery, Azure Monitor to ensure a well-managed environment. Turn on Azure Security Center and Azure Sentinel for that immediate access to the intelligent threat protection. Use Azure Arc to apply consistent policies across your hybrid environments as you plan and execute migrations. And use Azure Cost Management to plan and track your cloud spends to align with your budgetary goals. We recognize that customers are counting on us more than ever to regroup from the past year and ultimately transform. We have a rich mix of processes, tooling, and program investments to help customers navigate the journey and be successful. Many I highlighted throughout the discussion today. The Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure is proven guidance, along with the newly released well-architected framework to help you through this process. We have programs such as the Azure Migration Program and Fast Track for Azure to help customers successfully migrate no matter which approach you take. Azure Migrate is our unified toolset, which you saw in the earlier demo, the single place to meet all your migration needs. And management capabilities like Azure Arc can help you span the on-premises, edge, and multi-cloud environments. As we wrap up, I'll leave you with a few resources to get started. Start learning more with Azure Migration Center. Sign up for assistance with the Azure Migration Program, and move your workloads to Azure with Azure Migrate. I'd also like to invite all of you to join me for the Cloud Migration Virtual event on April 8th, where you can build your migration skills and you can navigate your own cloud journey. Thank you for your time and have a great day.